VTRNsports.com.
We are VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227BG Timberlake at 1320 AM.
This is Zach Gelb with the Sports Minute. Yesterday, the Cleveland Browns named Joe Flacco their starting quarterback, and then reports immediately surfaced that the Browns could carry 4 quarterbacks on their opening day roster. There's no doubt in my mind that Joe Flacco won't last the entire season as a Browns starting QB, and I do believe it's inevitable that Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders will start games at some point this year as well. Kenny Pickett is the wild card, but if he's on the Browns roster to start the season, he'll probably start at least a game or two as well. I'm Zach Gelb.
Get a bottle of Seafoam motor treatment for just $8.99 and receive 5 times O rewards points with the purchase at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Are you a parent of a 2 to 8-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting offer, then head to abcmouse.com/radio to learn more. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
We're offering a promo at abcmouse.com/radio to try it for free for a month, then $14.99 per month until canceled. Go to abcmouse.com/radio to see this offer. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Actual ABC Mouse users compensate for their testimonials, sponsored by Age of Learning.
In a world parched for excitement, Twisted Tea's your refreshing thrill ride of flavor. The hard iced tea that's smooth, made with real brewed tea and 5% alcohol. Twisted Tea. Keep it twisted. Twisted Tea Brewing Company.
Don't miss the final days of our big summer sales event at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Get a new 2025 Ram 1500 and save up to $10,000 off MSRP. Choose a new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee and get retail bonus cash up to $3,500 off MSRP. Hurry in for huge final days discounts on over 230 pre-owned vehicles. It's almost over. Get to our big summer sales event at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford, 1750 Independence Boulevard. MagicCityBedford.com.
With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new CareWatch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The CareWatch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. The CareWatch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. Call us to get your CareWatch right now.
800-681-8020. 800-681-8020. 800-681-8020. That's 800-681-8020.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
I need to heed my own advice to start the Fast Lane because we've got momentum going for the start of football season, not just because week 0 college football games this Saturday, 11:30 airtime for Farmageddon between Iowa State and Kansas State from Dublin. And then later that evening, Fresno State against Kansas. Already a doubleheader of meaningful, let's emphasize that, and free football games. And then next week is Jefferson Forest Cavalier football presented by TrostLaw.com. And things are coming together for all of this. I'm going to get religious for just a second in the fast lane. And it's ironic that I'm going to praise God while using an Usher soundbite. I totally get that. But here's the thing. I am trying to trust God to get me through the insanity that is happening before our very eyes. So again, just to get my Usher on, it is very ironic that that's in fact the direction we're going. I bring all this up in part because it also is the same advice that literally just came out of my mouth earlier today at Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my personal LinkedIn account. If you care to connect with me there, you're more than welcome to. But it's for EC Glass football. Look, again, Not every team in the Seminole District is going to go on to have a winning record and make the playoffs and win. Like, there's a zero-sum game when you're playing 7 district games. There are 8 teams in the Seminole District. Like, it's just somebody's going to lose games. But everybody, to a large extent, is optimistic to a certain degree. Liberty High School, it's much different from Liberty Christian Academy, if you catch the drift. But for EC Glass, this is a program that last year kind of felt, from their perspective and from seeing them get physically dominated against Jefferson Forest in what was one of the more shocking blowout games that we've seen in the Black and Blue Bowl. And I get it, it's just a 1-game sample size, but we've seen that. But we've also seen that there has been fight from EC Glass's team and Jamar Lovelace's squad, because they did upset Heritage at the end of the year. Like, this team was all over, which means there's, again, I know some people will call potential a word that's beeped out. We generally reserve it for parlays and hope, if you're in the parlance of that. Or to most people, I was wrong, you were right, I am sorry. But those are the things we bring up now in the fast lane, because for EC Glass, they've been very upfront about the goals from the end of last season to the beginning of this season, and the focus on 2025, and the fact that this thing started really early in the offseason.
I think we've all had kind of a bad taste in our mouth since last year's 5-5 football season with a first-round loss to GW in the playoffs. We hold our standard very high as a team, as a program. So I think that's been motivation for us kind of all offseason long. We kind of talked about having small goals. So it's been about winning every single day, winning every day in the weight room, being more accountable to each other, being better teammates, executing game plans. We've just kind of broke it down to the absolute lowest fundamental levels that we can, and we want to be great at those things. We feel like, walking that path is going to kind of get us exactly where we want to go.
So they've broken it down on a more fundamental level for EC Glass. And that's the right strategy from Jamar Lovelace. I get that. You factor that in with, this thing has been going on for a while. The idea of EC Glass doing an honest reflection. I'm not saying they were a disaster last year, but this is a program that, on their expectations, it's hard when you have Salem, who a couple of years ago had Chris Cole at the University of Georgia, linebacker, and Peyton Lewis, University of Tennessee, running back. Like, that's a hard hill to overcome, pun intended, with the Hilltoppers. But it's a hard one to overcome. But they're a program that's used to being the type of team that can be there around Thanksgiving. So either the Saturday before Thanksgiving, same day as the Star City Half Marathon, the Friday before Thanksgiving, the eve of the Star City Half Marathon and 10K, InsaneRadioDeals.com to get your entries at a special rate. Or after Thanksgiving, state quarterfinals. Like, Glass is routinely in that conversation. They're in that. So when you don't reach that and you have a couple disappointing seasons, and the pressure's probably intensified from the fan base, I can get why, given that there's a lot of talent, but we know about the dynamics. It's a very interesting school over there. You've got 2 different backgrounds, and the best coaches that have succeeded, and there have been some, have found that real niche of being able to blend all the backgrounds and getting the best results out of EC Glass. It's not impossible, but it's got its own unique challenges. Part of this is self-reflection, and EC Glass doing that from the beginning of the offseason.
We want to be the best team in the district. We think that's going to put us in position to be in the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, it's kind of a step-by-step process now to get to your ultimate goal. We're trying to win each day. We've had a great offseason. I think about 95% of our varsity team has been there since either since January or since kind of March when spring started. So we've got a real bought-in group. We feel great about our chemistry. We feel great about our accountability level.
95% is what EC Glass Hilltoppers football coach Jamar Lovelace referenced at the Seminole District Media Days. And you combine that with, from off-season conditioning starting in January to spring practice starting, and you allow, most coaches do, some allowance if guys are playing basketball as well, or playing baseball or lacrosse or some other, like, there's some coaches are more fickle about that than others, and more moody, if you will, when it comes to high school sports. But a lot of them are okay with that. But when you're not, you come out for the team. So if you're playing another sport, great. But when you're not playing the sport, come to us for conditioning. And that's often the way a lot of coaches operate. Hey, we're the priority, but if you are playing another sport and you have practice in a game, go do that. And then in your spare time, come with us. It's a lot on athletes, but I don't think it's the worst thing. Glass is just one school, but I think any school, I don't think it's the worst thing for kids if you're interested in both of those to be committed to both of those, because the time could be going to much more troublesome activities as well. And not every kid's in that spot, but plenty of them are. And therefore, they benefit from having that guidance. And I think it's a good thing for Glass. And if you get the school and get the dynamics and can really show the love to the kids, that it's a great thing. And they've had plenty of coaches that have been able to do that. And I think the jury's out on Jamar Lovelace generating the results. I think showing the love to the kids part is not I think he's fulfilled that part, but you ultimately have to get results. But when you're talking about Glass, there's a lot of momentum right now. And I think that's the big thing. Today is the start of schools, or was, in Lynchburg City schools. Pretty soon, coming up at Fastlane Ed Lane on the social medias, I'm going to do my obligatory what really goes on behind the scenes of all those back-to-school photos. Like my wife, Mead Lane, I think it's Mead Lane or Mead Lane, might be her accounts. I feel so bad, I don't even know what her Instagram account is, but whatever. She posts the cute photos of the kids. I, meanwhile, am the snarky parent who posts the not-so-cute photos. I'm the one where the kids are acting out, and my wife's hurting 2 7.5-year-old boys and trying to get me to cooperate, which that's a whole other hurdle for her to have to climb. God bless my wife for doing that. But I do think it's interesting. That has not been posted. But back to school day for Lynchburg City schools. It's a chance to really hone in and focus, or it can be a break in the momentum that the Hilltoppers feel like they've gathered. And for their season to go the way they want, which, again, with a lot of teams in the district, they have emphasized how important it is to start fast in non-district play, to start great, because it gives you a little wiggle room if things go haywire at junctures of the Seminole District, that if you get it back on track, you can still make the playoffs. And that's such a goal, TJ, because of how challenging this district is. But a lot of that for Glass in particular, when you're talking about as much momentum as they've had, it's kind of like the team that's on the heater going through the playoffs of the NFL or the college or the Major League Baseball playoffs. Sometimes you just want to keep the games going because you're the team that is starting to get that momentum going, started to taste success, and you don't want something to break up the rhythm of it.
No, for sure. And EC Glass is also another Seminole district that's managed to stay consistent all these years. They've been a top team for a while, so they've really built a strong case as far as football goes. And they're like the Buffalo Bills in the NFL, man. They know how to get in the playoffs. They know how to win a couple of games. It's just being able to get to the promised land. We haven't seen that from them in years.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. I mean, you're looking back to the the mid 90s, back in the old Andre Kendrick days, and even then they went had to run into Ronald Curry and Hampton and teams of that caliber. But I mean, those were some epic slugfests back in the day. And now it's different in Class 4 because you're going up against Salem, and for years Salem, they've been a gold standard in Class 4 football. Not winning it every year, but always a threat with Phoebus, which also recruits at a high level. Oh, excuse me, did I say? Not to mention, they're just blessed in an area with a very fertile base of talent at Phoebus. Everyone knows about Taj Boyd, the former Clemson quarterback, but there have been so many other players that are there. And for Glass, and I think for any team, if you lose to those type of teams in the playoffs, yeah, your head droops because it stinks in the moment. But after you have a chance to look back on it, you can hang your head high and go, you know what? That's a really good team that beat us. But you want to get to that position if you're EC Glass, and that's where the standard has been pushed and challenged. To their credit, they confronted it in the offseason. To their credit, the participation rates have been very strong. But they're in an interesting spot where you have a benefit game this coming weekend, and then the real thing begins next week. And as we give our random Seminole District previews, and today it's EC Glass, you've got to find a way, if you're Jamar Lovelace now, for all the momentum you've had, to help sharpen the focus now as you get closer, a week and a half out from meaningful football, as opposed to it going in the wrong way, because it is that important for every team in the Seminole to start as strong as possible in out-of-district play.
Especially with how tough the Seminole District is. And it's hard to recruit guys. This is where Phoebus, and then you've also got Hampton and Kings Fort High. They're in a position where you got the Michael Vick areas of recruiting, whereas EC Glass, Brookville, all of them, they don't have that luxury. Brookville is lucky to pick up Logan Thomas just because he was a former player there and brought his kids with them. So EC Glass has a challenge in that standard. But I think with the talent they've been able to bring, like George White a couple years back, they've been blessed and they've maintained consistency.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned George White, a William and Mary guy, Drayshawn Kendrick, who initially went there and understandably followed his dad to Norfolk State, as Andre Kendrick is Michael Vick's running backs coach. And, honestly, I don't think there's a whole lot Mike London could have done just because of the family ties that Andre Kendrick has to Michael Vick and being in the same backfield together on the team that went to the national title game at Virginia Tech. So, I get that. But you're talking about there's been talent at EC Glass, and I think, honestly, there's always a lot of talent there. It's what you can do to nurture and cultivate that, because the dynamics are so different. You've got kids from so many different backgrounds, stable home environments, not as stable home environments. A lot of them may not have had football may have been the one thing that has kept them out of trouble and given them a reason to go to school and go to class, which I think is great. If football can be used as an avenue to help you learn how to handle yourself in other areas, that's part of what high school football is supposed to do. Is in youth football is give you the incentive of, hey, I got to keep my grades up so that I can play. I've got to focus and lock in so I can play. The challenge also, though, is understanding that as you have talent, greater talent comes greater expectations. And that is a reality for EC Glass and a lot of these teams in the Seminole District, where you're trying to go from good to much better to great. And again, that's one of the things for EC Glass. And I get it as well. Again, we touched on confronting the challenges for them, but building a strong base for EC Glass is part of that. And this is what they discussed when they spoke, EC Glass's Jamar Lovelace, but also when their players spoke at the Seminole District Media Days, about the fact that, again, a lot of this is looking in the mirror and trying to build the right physical foundation to have the right season.
We're a bigger, stronger football team than we were last year, and we wanted to be that way on purpose. I don't think that we weren't big enough and strong enough last year to compete in the district and in the region, where it's going to take some guts and it's going to take some pounds and it's going to take some time in the weight room. And that's been our focus all offseason. And we feel great about where we are and chomping at the bit to get going. We play a tough schedule, so we're going to have to be at our best early. So we want to be at our best every day, knowing that that's the type of effort it's going to take every Friday night that we play.
Again, I know it's a rinse, wash, repeat, but all these coaches talk about how challenging the Seminole District is, and a lot of it's because they understand that, and that's part of the reason why they're speaking so highly of what goes on in non-district play. Well, with that being the case, you've got to have the momentum. And again, I bring it up for EC Glass today because it's such an interesting dynamic. And this is no offense to Jamar Lovelace, but why we pick EC Glass on the day City Schools go back as opposed to Heritage, with all due respect, Heritage, they've got Brad Bradley, who is a multi-time state championship winning coach, and routinely, as our own Ty Tracy from the morning warm-up, 7 to 8 a.m., having played for Brad Bradley, can attest, there's a real disciplined, structured plan in place at Heritage that's been there for over a decade now with Brad Bradley.
And it shows. If you watch Heritage plays, it shows.
It does. I mean, and again, they're not going to be the best team every year. I think anyone in 3A's got an uphill battle against LCA, and there are more thoughts on that to come at another time, because that's again, it's its own unique scenario. Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, if you care to weigh in. But I think for EC Glass, they feel like they're a program that has had a lot of momentum going, but this is kind of that hold your breath time if you're the coach. It's different. Like in the pros, they talk about holding your breath in the month or so, the months of the off season. Stephon Diggs on the boat in Miami with whatever that pink substance is. Is it Tushy? Is that what it is? I still can't get over the ridiculousness of that. But you talk about that, or the lead up to training camp. And once you get back to training camp for NFL teams, there's a bit of an exhale from everybody's in their normal routine. I think for Glass, you've kind of had your own football routine and you've been in your little football bubble afterwards, but now you introduce that added dynamic today of back to school. And I think Jamar Lovelace, having had more years at Glass and been familiar with it, let's be real here, he was at William Fleming, which again, there's some similar dynamics to Glass and William Fleming, but you talk about going through that. This is that spot where seizing that momentum is so crucial for EC Glass. Meanwhile, if you want to seize the momentum of specials and sales, it's always possible at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Every single item at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Tons of great food items like Downtown Cairo, the Yard on 5th Street, Caribbean Jerk Pot, and more. JD's Cafe, by the way. There's some of those left. All off the normal rate. So why pay full price when you can get a special deal thanks to InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to table the thoughts of what Kyle Busch could learn from Austin Dillon. I know it's kind of ironic because Kyle Busch has won a championship and Austin Dillon is not, but you could argue Austin Dillon's had more success in the last couple of years at Richard Childress Racing than Kyle Busch has. We're going to table that for tomorrow or Thursday in the fast lane because we want to get into that, but we need to allot it more time coming off of Dylan's upset victory a couple of hours away from our Virginia Talk Radio Network studios over at Richmond over the weekend. But speaking of Richmond, it is time to get into that with a little nugget in the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
So let's be real in the fast lane. It's very rare that people who are financially motivated, and NASCAR would put themselves in this category, would throw a bone to the fans, if you will. But I consider Richmond a bone to the fans. Some of it's the tire compound that Goodyear had, which is so crucial to get this right. Not that it should always be on Goodyear, but it is. The quality of racing, I think, at Richmond is as good as it's been at that track in a long time. And it frankly has been as good as it's been at whether you want to call Richmond a short track, they've struggled, or these moderate intermediate tracks like Iowa, which was, to not me, but to a lot of fans, a disappointing race a couple of weeks ago. Richmond had strategy. It had some side-by-side racing. It had passing for the lead. It wasn't the most epic NASCAR race, but relative to what we've seen, it was a bone. But running it on Saturday night came at a cost. While it was a sellout and fans showed up, it was down viewership, 37% from last year. 1.39 million viewers on Saturday night compared to 2.2 million last year. Now, granted, this one was on USA Network, which is not big NBC. That is something that's worth keeping in mind. But last year's was a Sunday night. This is a Saturday night, traditionally a lower viewership. But selfishly, I'm a Saturday night or Sunday afternoon fan. I cannot stand the Sunday night races where you have to stay up late as you get ready. By the way, thankfully, the Virginia Tech Chick-fil-A kickoff game is not a late game. We will get to that with Gary Stokan, the executive director, in just a moment. But for NASCAR at Richmond over the weekend, I think this is a sacrificial thing. You sacrifice the viewership for NASCAR, given that you need to flip the script from a perception and momentum standpoint. TJ, you might fill me in on the quarterback news and nuggets that have been brought up, but there have been plenty of starting quarterbacks named in college football and in the NFL. I don't think there are very many that are a surprise right now. No. Julian Sayin at Ohio State, everyone kind of saw that one coming from quite a bit of a ways away. You know, a lot of in college is simple. Follow who's getting the bigger NIL deal and understand that that guy is going to have an upper hand, much like CJ Carr at Notre Dame. Teams invest in the offseason kind of the way that you would expect. In the NFL, it is a little bit different. Anthony Richardson, he was beat out by Daniel Jones, who the idea of taking a guy with all this upside, but is a major athletic project, it may work at certain positions. Tight end, Mo Alley-Cox from VCU, who never played at the collegiate level, but had a great career with the Indianapolis Colts. Or, you know, what's his name? The left tackle for the Eagles, Mailata, who is the rugby player. You can develop it at that spot. But because quarterback requires such touch timing and anticipation, it has been dicey. You combine that with injuries, which stunt your time for practicing and developing. And it's why I think they made the right decision with Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns, Joe Flacco, the starting quarterback for the opener, I get that, you know, there's no nuance to this, but let's be real with some nuance because that's what we provide in the fast lane. The nuance to this is if I want Shedeur Sanders to be a starter, and I think if you're a Browns fan, you should want to see Shedeur Sanders, and if that doesn't work out, Dylan Gabriel, in enough time by the end of the year to decide whether there is at least a path to hope for this guy going forward, or you need to scrap it all and get a quarterback in the upcoming draft. The right path to that is having Joe Flacco. There are a couple of reasons for that. One, let these guys sit behind Flacco and at least see how fast a regular season game is versus a preseason. But second of all, if you just throw the unqualified guy out there because you want to appease the fans and the hot take artists, the locker room doesn't care about that. A lot of these are multi-year veterans. They want the best chance to win right now. There is no patience. I understand it and I get that. And inevitably, I think Flacco is going to hit his head athletically. It just requires patience from fans. And many of them would say that patience is a 4-letter word, even though it's way more than that. Meanwhile, speaking of the NFL,
Number 3.
Are you excited for tonight, TJ? Are you a Netflix subscriber?
I have not subscribed to Netflix, no.
The Jerry Jones documentary.
Yeah.
I am stoked to see this. I imagine it'll be salacious, but Jerry Jones, to his credit, even in the book Boys Will Be Boys by Jeff Pearlman, who's an author and a friend of ours in the Fast Lane, that's a great book worth reading about the 1990s Dallas Cowboys. But it's so insightful. To their credit, Jones and the Cowboys have often been more outspoken about this. I give them a lot of credit because a lot of people try to gloss over their warts, even though TMZ exists now and it's out there in the open. The Cowboys have just been like, look, it's part of the brand. It's part of who we are. Taking ownership of that, I really love that. And it's why I'm so compelled to see this type of development this evening.
Yeah, I saw a clip of Jimmy Johnson talking about how he wouldn't let the players eat on the plane, and Michael Irvin's reaction and everything. That was a beautiful scene. It was super entertaining. So I'm excited to see how this documentary goes down.
Meanwhile, speaking of documentaries, Spike Lee's multi-part series for ESPN Films about Colin Kaepernick, the former NFL quarterback, will not be released. Is this the first example of ESPN's editorial control being influenced by the NFL? They've not wanted a lot of these details to come out about Colin Kaepernick. I would be fascinated by that. I've kind of put Kaepernick and Tebow in the same category. Players that were lightning rods for different reasons, politically, racially, socioeconomically, in their backgrounds. But the play never justified a lot of the attention surrounding them, and therefore, ultimately, they were phased out in part because of that. I'd still love to have seen all the details, and Spike Lee is great at uncovering that. I will admit that it would be a slant because that's kind of how Spike Lee would put a documentary together, but I find that to be fascinating, and you kind of wonder if this is the NFL, first of all, exerting more of a nudge to ESPN on this particular project.
You would think so. I mean, there's details. I wonder with the John Gruden case if Kaepernick's going to file and we're going to see more details come out as a trial begins.
No doubt about it. Meanwhile, we heard this yesterday and touched on it with Jerry Ratcliffe, but it's worth mentioning. Linebacker Cam Robinson's going to miss a couple of games due to a slight fracture in his collarbone and subsequent surgery to repair it, according to Virginia head football coach Tony Elliott about the stud linebacker for the Virginia Cavaliers. It's not that injury in and of itself. It's you combine that with they're getting thin on the secondary. They lost their 2 projected starting tackles. I don't know what it says about Virginia when you can lose your 2 starting tackles and believe you'll be just fine with other guys. Are they all kind of the same caliber players? Do you have that much trust in Terry Heffernan? We'll get to that with Ahmad Hawkins Thursday in the Fast Lane, Virginia analyst and former player. But to me, it's the accumulative effect of all of these injuries. I will say it's a relatively easy schedule for Virginia, including the opener against Coastal. One of their quarterbacks is already out for the year. Virginia, they need those breaks because, unfortunately, they've had a lot of breaks and tears to players this offseason. Meanwhile, when we return in the Fast Lane, we will get to more thoughts on college football, including holding your breath that you would get the Beamer battle between Frank Beamer's old school and his son's current school. We'll get that with Gary Stokan, executive director of the Aflac Kickoff Game, who will join us next here in the Fast Lane on the VTR in Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTR in Sports.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. ID1 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590. Where smart support meets real savings.
Are your windows difficult to open and close? Are you air conditioning the outdoors with gaps around your old, worn-out windows? It's time to call Collins Siding and Windows. Let their experienced craftsmen transform your home's appearance with beautiful new windows while also saving you money on energy costs. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Window has been transforming homes in the Lynchburg area. Call Collins Siding and Window today for all of your exterior home projects. Call today, 434-525-6307.
Warm weather means traveling. Hi, I'm Randy Trost from Trost Law. with a couple of safety reminders. Always wear your seatbelt. Don't drive distracted or impaired. And remember, it's better to safely arrive a little later than being in an auto accident. Those things can make a big difference between a fun family trip or a painful alternative. At Trost Law, I hope you never need our services, but if you do, we're here to help you at 777-HURT or trostlaw.com.
As a mom, I want to enjoy my time with my family and not energy-draining, time-consuming projects. That's why I trust Executive Maintenance. When I need a handyman, I call Executive Maintenance. When I need lawn care and landscaping, I call Executive Maintenance. And when I have a big project like gutter cleaning and pressure washing, I call Executive Maintenance. Guard your family time. Trust Executive Maintenance for all your house jobs. Visit executivemaintenancelynchburg.com and call them today so you can spend time enjoying your family as I do.
Hokie fans, are you still getting your Hokie sports news from someplace like ESPN.com or even worse, the newspaper? You're missing out. Tech Sideline has assembled the largest and most talented team to ever cover Virginia Tech athletics. If you want Hokie sports coverage that is second to none and will make you the smartest fan at the tailgate, subscribe to TechSideline.com for just $12 a month or $120 a year. Tech Sideline, all Hokie, all the time, period. Visit TechSideline.com and subscribe today.
VTRN Sports is now heading to YouTube. Head to youtube.com/@VTRN Sports Lynchburg to watch both the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle and the Fast Lane with Ed Lane live each day. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and have notifications turned on. All the great local content you love with VTRN Sports is now on YouTube. Subscribe to the VTRN Sports YouTube channel at youtube.com/@VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Head to Lynchburg-Hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTRN Sports.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Holding your breath. Is that something that just recently happened at the Chick-fil-A game, the Chick-fil-A Bowl, and the Aflac kickoff game? Because we welcome in the executive director of those events, Gary Stokan, back with us once again in the Fast Lane. Gary, first of all, a pleasure to be speaking with you. I'm excited to get down there. I've got an early flight coming up on Sunday game day, August 31st, to get down to Atlanta, and I've got some cousins that are down there and are excited to pick me up, and we'll take the game in and get to have all the fun of festivities around it. But were you holding your breath, much like I will be if the airlines cooperate, that you would get the storyline of Frank Beamer's former school, Virginia Tech, against the son, Shane Beamer, and his current school, South Carolina, when you pinned this matchup together a couple of years ago?
Well, I have to breathe a little bit because we have Tennessee and Syracuse at noon the day before on August 30th. So, yeah, we're working hard to put these two games together for both ACC, SEC matchups in 27 hours. But it's going to be a great game on Sunday with Frank and Cheryl Beamer being honored before the game, Frank doing the invocation, and then, as you mentioned, Shane Beamer playing against his old team, Virginia Tech, and the team that his father did such a tremendous job in getting into the College Football Hall of Fame for. So we're looking forward to a sold-out event, and hopefully all the Hokies and all the Gamecocks travel safely over as well as you.
When you pick all of those, and we appreciate, by the way, the well wishes to TJ and me as we'll be heading down to this event. When you put this together and you looked at the matchup between Frank Beamer and Shane Beamer, Frank Beamer's former team and now Shane Beamer's current team, was it a natural synergy to putting Frank Beamer, in the spotlight because of the pregame festivities? Take us behind the scenes of how you, Gary, and your team at the Aflac kickoff game decided to put this together and, recognize somebody that's central to this event, but may just be wearing maroon because that's the one color that both schools feature.
Yeah, the garnet and maroon are so close in color that I know Cheryl Beamer will be wearing garnet or maroon, whichever way you want to look at it. But, it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, we think a tremendous amount about Frank and Cheryl and what they meant to us. They've won our golf tournament, the Peach Bowl Challenge. They've won the kickoff game. They've won the bowl game. They've won the Dodd Trophy, which we manage and operate, and celebrating our 50th anniversary of the Dodd Trophy for the preeminent college coach of the year. So Frank has been very good to us. And Shane, I just think the world of Shane. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country, let alone being a young coach. And what he's done at South Carolina over the first 5 years has been phenomenal. And so it's going to be a great matchup with Brent Pry, and who I think was coaching at Virginia Tech when Shane was there.
Yes, he was. He's been there. They've got ties to being there at Virginia Tech, and certainly there's that angle to it. You also bring it up, though, the personalities. We've seen Brent Pry in person. Everybody's familiar with Frank and Shane Beamer and their time in Blacksburg as well. You combine that with the overall weekend with Tennessee and then Syracuse as well. How much of the fact when you're putting this matchup together, are you eyeing programs that have passionate fan bases, but also programs who have coaches that, I don't know if you want them to directly be sellers for you, but the fact that when they're passionate, it would seemingly be an easy sell to get fans excited about some matchup like South Carolina and Virginia Tech next Sunday, which, by the way, for those that don't go, they can listen on the VTR and Sports app.
Yeah, you certainly want to look at coaches that are having success, not only in recruiting, but on the field, as well as fan bases, as you mentioned, in the case of South Carolina, Virginia Tech, that will travel to the game, because to meet the payouts you have to meet, we don't receive any TV money from this game. So you have to make the payouts based on ticket sales and sponsorship. So thank God for Aflac. Thank God for the great fans from both of these schools. We're able to put on a game like this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to just see that and see these matchups each and every year. Our own TJ Wilkerson spoke with you on Friday, and that interview is up at Fastlane Edlane, wherever our listeners choose to consume that, however they choose on podcasts. But, he brought up the interesting point with you about the geographic ties and things of that nature. When you're planning these matchup, obviously Syracuse is maybe not the most geographically central team to the Atlanta area, but when you're planning this matchup, what are the key factors that you go into making sure you've got a weekend in this case, or even one game where fans can come in and turn this into not just a game, but kind of a kickoff to the college football season?
Well, there's no real formula. All these games are like your own children. They all have their own story behind them. They all exist for a certain specific reason. And in the case of Syracuse, John Waldhack is a personal friend who is a business relationship through ESPN that we have, and negotiating deals from the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl with ESPN and John. And when he became AD at Syracuse, he called and said, "Hey, I've watched at the time, it was the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Now it's the Aflac kickoff game. How big a stage they are, and we want to get Syracuse back to where it belongs in being the preeminent college football team in the country. And so we'd love to have an opportunity to play. And so we looked at future years, and 2025 was the first year that made sense. And then with Virginia Tech, with Babcock, when he took the job at Virginia Tech, he mentioned that he'd like to play in this because he saw what Frank Beamer had done playing in games like this, major opponents opening the season. And so we were able to put together the 25 game with Syracuse, South and Tennessee, and South Carolina, Virginia Tech. Because Danny White, same story. When he got the Tennessee job, he wanted to play in a game like this. We had hosted them when he was at UCF. When they played Auburn in our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl game in 2017. And then on South Carolina, Ray Tanner and I went to school together at North Carolina State. And he played baseball, I played basketball. We both coached our respective sports there. And we've been trying for probably 10 years to put South Carolina together in a game. And so that's what I mean. Each of these have a different story to them. And you just better lucky than good in putting these matchups together. And we got lucky with the Beamer Bowl game.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool that the Chick-fil-A Bowl, Peach Bowl, as well as the Aflac kickoff game have found ways to tie all these games together and tie these events together, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask as well. Obviously, there's an economic impact for the Atlanta area, but more importantly, the ability to tie something like this in to the charitable component. So when fans are going to this game, that they're part of something even larger than that. How much has that been something that you and your colleagues have tried to make a continual focus, even when putting these matchups together, of fans that grasp the significance of that and are willing to lean into that along with their schools?
Well, Ed, I appreciate you very much bringing that up. We consider this a win all the way around, a win for, Virginia Tech and South Carolina fans, for their media, for their players, for their coaches, for their presidents, for their ADs, as well as the rest of college football, because they get a chance on Sunday at 3:00 to see a great game in an unopposed TV slot. But also we've named this weekend to Kickoff for a Cause, because not only is it the kickoff to college football season, but September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. In our partnership with AFLAC, we have donated $100,000, and AFLAC has matched that. And we're also going to donate all of our 50-50 raffle from both games to our Peach Bowl Legacy Fund, which was established with a $20 million investment by us, a donation by Peach Bowl Inc., to find cures and trials to eradicate childhood cancer. And we now announced just yesterday after our board meeting an added $2.5 million on top of the $20 million that we've already invested and donated to find cures and trials. We now have 18 trials in 5 different hospitals in 4 different states, everything from neuroblastoma to leukemia. And some of these trials have given kids, 6 months more than what they would have gotten if the trial wasn't available. And we're trying to keep these trials alive so that we can get something that, finds a cure to give a kid another lifetime. So, we're using college football for the greater good. And it's been our mission since we were started in 1968. We're the most charitable bowl organization in the country, having given $65.8 million. Now you add $2.5 more million to that. So we're going to be close to $70 million when it's all said and done by the end of this year and what we've donated to charity.
Wow. That's awesome. It's just so neat to see, and how an event like this is been able to find a way to embrace the charitable component with that. Gary Stokan, Executive Director of the AFLAC Kickoff Game and the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, is with us here in the Fast Lane. Gary, we'll wrap it up on this, and we'd be remiss if we didn't ask about this, because you brought this up with our colleague TJ Wilkerson last week, and that interview is up at Fast Lane Ed Lane. However, our audience would care to consider and listen to podcasts for that. But the concept of the group of 5 having their own playoff and playing in the spring, you brought it up. You detailed very well about why that's something that should be considered. How feasible or realistic is it something that might actually be considered?
Well, I think playing in spring is way out there. But, when you look at the transfer portal, depending on when they settle, I think the SEC and some of the other conferences are, suggesting a January transfer portal deadline, and the Big Ten favors January and April. That has an impact on the group of 5, because I think I read where most of the group of 5 all-conference players have transferred up to Power 4 teams. But the idea that I suggested the other day to TJ, which I think is feasible and really, I think, really good business, would be for the group of 5 teams to have a playoff and a national championship game where I think they can make a lot of money with TV networks would be interested in that. And the interest on campus would be huge in a playoff situation, because, anytime in America when you're playing for a championship, people get invested. And I think they would do the same with the group of 5. I suggested, playing it in the fall makes sense, and possibly that winner could become the representative in the CFP playoff. So they have a build-up to getting that champion into the 12-team playoff. Or taking that and playing college football in the spring, which ESPN and Fox have, suggested that they're really interested. Neither the USFL or UFL have worked for them to a great degree in viewership. And so, to have college football, I think, nationally with all the Power 4 teams, or I'm sorry, Power 5 teams, I think would work in April, May, and June with a lot of those colleges. The weather's a lot nicer. Spring ball would be interesting. They could do a national championship game. So obviously, I think makes more sense to do it in the fall right now, but certainly in the spring wouldn't be too far away from being a pretty good idea.
I mean, I like it. It's something that we got a taste of back when nobody wants to go back into the COVID era, but when a lot of those 1AA FCS schools played, instead of playing in the fall, they played in the spring of 2021 and created some compelling storylines, and it was an entirely different experience and year, and fills a void, which is great. Gary, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane. By the way, congratulations on, did I see that correctly, your retirement as well?
Yeah, I announced yesterday I'll be retiring May 31st. I'll be 71 years old, and being able to coach my 9, 8, 7, and 5-year-old grandsons, I'm looking forward to staying in coaching. And as I said yesterday, the definition of retirement is ceasing to work. Well, I can't retire because I've never worked a day in my life in 47 years being in sports. So I've been very blessed, and we'll have our 2 Aflac kickoff games. We'll have our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl semifinal of the CFP, and then our Southern Company Peach Bowl Challenge golf tournament in May. And then I'll be able to enjoy my grandkids.
You have earned that. We appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us today, Gary. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed. Travel safe. We look forward to hosting you on Sunday.
Indeed. Gary Stokan with us here in the Fast Lane when we return. Speaking of the group of 5, Liberty Flames. John Manson of CFRed.com slated to step into the Fast Lane next to give us his camp conclusions right here on the VTRN Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Don't miss the final days of our big summer sales event at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Get a new 2025 Ram 1500 and save up to $10,000 off MSRP. Choose a new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee and get retail bonus cash up to $3,500 off MSRP. Hurry in for huge final days discounts on over 230 pre-owned vehicles. It's almost over. Get to our big summer sales event at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford, 1750 Independence Boulevard. MagicCityBedford.com.
It's the ultimate Beamer battle. Be there when the Virginia Tech Hokies and Shane Beamer South Carolina Gamecocks battle it out at the Aflac kickoff game. Experience the electrifying atmosphere and cheer for the Hokies live. Secure your seats and be part of the action. Head over to AflacKOG.com now to purchase your tickets. That's AflacKOG.com to purchase your tickets. To the Aflac kickoff game, Sunday, August 31st.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
You're seriously considering buying investment property, but you're unsure of all the steps. That's where we come in at Brownstone Properties. We're navigating different home investment journeys daily, just as we've done for decades. From buying with one of our licensed realtors to a full-service property management after the purchase, Brownstone Properties will walk with you step by step on your real estate investment journey. For a free initial consultation, call or visit us online today at brownstoneproperties.com.
The feel of the beach is perfect. Relaxing with family and friends. Bonding over memorable meals fresh from the seas. It's a beach experience, and it's in our backyard at 801 Raw Bar in downtown Lynchburg. They're family-owned and family-operated, bringing you that relaxing beach house vibe while you enjoy the freshest seafood from our region, including raw oysters, king crabs, and snow crab. Not really a seafood person? Try their fresh handcrafted burgers, subs, pizza, and salads. Step into the relaxing beach house vibe at 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
Just like summer, the deals at InsaneRadioDeals.com are heating up. Check out these great deals on food. $50 gift cards to the Caribbean Jerk Pot. $50 gift card to the Yard on 5th Street. $25 gift card to Ballad Brewing. $25 gift card to Donnie D's Bagels and Deli. $50 gift card to Downtown Cairo. All these great food deals and much more at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Check these deals out right now before they run out.
Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
On the Tuesday night, Wednesday morning show. On Wednesday, President Trump will join European leaders talking about the Russian meeting on Friday. What might be discussed on Wednesday?
And every day I see more stories. In this country, we're going to need more electricity.
Red Eye Radio, overnights 1 till 6 on the Virginia Talk Radio Network.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. ID1 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hey, gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
They're doing positional previews at a seaofred.com, and it's mighty convenient because as they start wrapping those up, we get a chance to get more camp observations, or we will call them camp conclusions, with John Manson from aseaofred.com, who joins us now in the Fast Lane. John, appreciate your time with us today. Appreciate it as always, of course. Camp conclusions for the Liberty Flames, and of course, conclusions from Saturday's scrimmage as well. You wrote an article detailing your observations from Saturday's scrimmage. And first of all, how many people heeded your advice to not overly invest in what you saw in Saturday's scrimmage, but to properly invest in those takeaways?
Yeah, I think it's only natural to overreact to what you see, which, you know, for fans and even media, you know, we don't get a ton of access to Liberty football practice throughout the season, but particularly in training camp. So when you get a chance to see some real live scrimmage situations for an extended period of time, I mean, scrimmage was about an hour and a half. You're only going to overreact, and it's really tough to kind of, you know, gauge, you know, how to, you know, what your takeaways should be, because, you know, especially when it's an inter-squad scrimmage. I mean, you know, if one unit or one group or one person looks good, it means on the flip side, another unit or another person or group doesn't look well. So I think the main takeaway was that the defense looked really good, and it kind of goes into what Coach Chadwell and that defensive staff has talked about throughout camp, is the potential for the defense to be, you know, one of the best units Liberty's had, certainly under Chadwell in his going on 3 years, maybe even at the FBS level. But again, how much of that is due to them practicing against the same offense and the same personnel for the last month? They know when they get in certain formations what their keys are and what they're looking for, and what players to pay attention to. So that's part of it. But and then obviously, you know, a lot of attention was paid to the quarterback battle between Ethan Vasco and Ryan Berger. And based on what we saw Saturday. I don't think any one person, if we're assuming that the race was even going into Saturday, which we don't know that, I don't think anyone staked their claim for that starting job with their performance Saturday. Both had some good throws, good plays, and also had some that left you wanting more. They each threw an interception, and maybe each held onto the ball a little bit too long, and were more than content to pull the ball and run. But again, how quarterbacks aren't being tackled in the scrimmage, and so it's kind of difficult to get a good gauge on it. But it's easy to overreact to a scrimmage.
John Manson, JC Manson, with us here in the Fast Lane. The JC Manson part is the AseaofRed.com founder's Twitter account. John, for camp conclusions, what are some definitive conclusions you have about position battles, units, and clarity you might be getting in terms of areas where you feel the coaching staff will have enough confidence in their own conclusions to have the Flames ready for next Saturday's opener against Maine, which, by the way, tickets are listed now, special rate, $19.99 per ticket at InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Yeah, I think the first thing is we know who the starting offensive line is. I mean, it's been the first team, the same first five guys with the first unit. Every time, I've had a chance to watch a Liberty football practice, it was the same Saturday for the scrimmage. That's three returning starters anchored by Aaron Fenimore there at center. And then you got Jack Tucker, who's sliding over to right tackle. He spent a lot of time last year at left tackle. Harrison Hayes at right guard. So the right side of the line is pretty set. And then on the left side, you got DJ Geth at left guard, who's a North Carolina transfer from a year ago where he redshirted as a true freshman and then was part of Liberty's rotation last year, mainly off the bench, as a rotation piece, primarily at guard. And Coach Bill Durkin, Liberty's offensive line coach, said, the potential for Geth is extremely high. Still a young guy, redshirt sophomore this year, but he's kind of entrenched there at left guard. And then left tackle is Trey Badowski, UAB transfer, veterans, played a lot of football, started some for UAB. So I think we're pretty sure of who those guys are. I think the coaching staff's still trying to figure out who those next two or three guys are that'll be the first ones up there. I also think that the coaching staff is confident in the wide receiver crew, the depth that they've assembled there. And I'm looking forward to Dante Lee, shameless plug here. We had an article on AseaofRed.com about him today, second-year transfer player from Division II Shaw. He was highly recruited when he went into the portal, lots of FBS programs seeking his talents. He came to Liberty maybe a little underwhelmed his first year on the mountain last year. Coach Chadwell and Dante himself said he needed to put on some weight, and he's done that. And also had an extra year to study the playbook, which he said was pivotal for him. So I think we could see a big step up for him. Also, Jamari Person, Colorado State transfer at receiver. I think I would expect big things from him. So then the big question, obviously, like we've been talking about all camp, is who is a quarterback that's going to be able to get the ball to these receivers. So, but I think the receiver room, the depth there, and then also kind of being solid in who that first five on the offensive line are some things that we know going into the last week and a half before the season starts.
Those are positive takeaways from John Manson, AseaofRed.com founder here in the Fast Lane. W227BG Timberlake, WVGM Ames Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna Danville Southside, because we'll go a little bit into overtime today with John Manson for his great insight. John, you mentioned the quarterback position timeline for when we get clarity on it. When Jamie Chadwell speaks with the media on Thursday, do you anticipate more clarity, or might this thing be drug out all the way to the opener, not too dissimilar to when Caden Salter may have won the job sooner, but was ultimately just named the guy right before they started against Bowling Green?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Coach Chadwell said that he expected this week, the first week of classes at Liberty, to have a decision made and finalized. So I don't know if, they had the players' day off on Monday and also Sunday as classes started. So perhaps the coaches had time to get away and meet and discuss and make a decision there. So I don't know. I think there's a decent chance that Chadwell does announce the starter on Thursday. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if he just waited a few more days before you get into game week next week and his next media availability at that point in time too. So I think it's kind of a coin flip as to whether or not he'll announce it Thursday or wait till next week. And like you mentioned, 2 years ago when the battle was between Caden Salter and Jonathan Bennett, obviously Salter won that job. There was no announcement. It came, he was basically like, you wait and see who gets off the not the bus, but who gets off the sideline first, who gets off the bench first. And, and it was Salter. So there was no real announcement then. Will he make an announcement this time? I think he probably will. It's a little bit different. When you're playing an FCS team like Maine, where Liberty's a 3+ touchdown favorite, as opposed to Bowling Green, a team that was a bowl team that year and, a formidable opponent for the Flames in their first year under Coach Chadwell. So I would expect there to be an announcement, whether that's Thursday or Tuesday. We'll just have to wait and see. And I'm sure Ed Lane will be out there with the breaking news as we will too at SC Red once Coach Chadwell makes that announcement.
I mean, why not, right, John? YOLO is do they even say that these days?
Not so much. I think maybe it's more people our age saying YOLO. I think the kids have moved on from that phrase.
I'm sure they have. You have 2 daughters who will keep you abreast of it. My sons are not quite there, John. In the meantime, thank you for making time in the midst of picking your daughters up from volleyball practice to join us Tuesday in the Fast Lane. Always love catching up with you and look forward to seeing you in a couple days.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me on, Ed. And before you know it, we'll have actual football to talk about.
Yeah, next week's chat. That's what we'll be discussing. We look forward to that, John. Thank you. John Manson, SCofRed.com founder, to wrap up the Fast Lane now. On to VSiN's Make It Rain, already in progress.
American League Wildcard, we have a 3-way tie for the top spot. And the